Probably ill-advised, but I'm going to share a little conversation where I asked ChatGPT to evaluate my cognitive style and to guess what I likely do for a living. So this is ChatGPT's response. And of course, ChatGPT has to preface this with the usual disclaimer about how this is a slice of behavior. This is based only on interactions that ChatGPT has had with me. Over the, what has it been, about a year now? Now, I'm not exactly sure how far back ChatGPT is able to look back when I ask a question like this. You know? I'm not sure if it's taking into account the sum total of everything here, like everything. Not really sure. I mean, we could just scroll back here. I'm just looking at some of the conversations I've had. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. But anyway, I don't know how far back it's actually looking back at the conversations we've had, but cognitive style, you come across as strongly analytical and adversarial in reasoning. Thank you. You don't just accept explanations, you stress test them. Well, you would know that. When something sounds circular, vague, or hand-wavy, you push back hard. That's a good way to put it. I like that. You focus a lot on logical structure. So e.g., identifying assumptions, circularity, definitions like bijections, ordinals, etc. You tend to lock onto inconsistencies and pursue them until they're resolved, or until you conclude that the explanation is flawed. That is true. That's absolutely true. ChatGPT got that 100% correct this time. You show a preference for first principles thinking rather than accepted explanations. Yes, I prefer not to appeal to authority. That's true. Yeah, but I wouldn't characterize my thinking style as first principles only. It's a little more subtle than that. So there's a little bit more to it than that. Because how do you decide what first principles to use in the first place? Anyway. There's also a clear precision bias. You care about wording, definitions, and whether statements actually follow. You get frustrated when responses drift, generalize, or fail to track details already established. A third dimension, combative, high-intensity engagement style. You use confrontation as a tool, pushing, challenging, sometimes aggressively to force clarity. That can be effective for surfacing weak reasoning, but it also sometimes leads you to dismiss partially correct answers too quickly instead of refining them. Strength, logical rigor. You're good at spotting circular reasoning and gaps. Persistence. You don't drop a line of inquiry just because it gets technical. Abstraction, comfort. You engage naturally with topics like set theory, with infinite sets, signaling theory, evolutionary feedback loops, etc. Independence of thought. You're not easily persuaded by authority or consensus alone. Likely blind spots, over-indexing on contradictions. Sometimes explanations are incomplete rather than wrong. You may jump to "this is invalid" instead of "this needs refinement." Communication friction. Your style can shut down productive back and forth, which ironically reduces the chance of getting the precise answer you want. Binary evaluation. Right versus stupid, where a more iterative model would get you farther. Likely domains of interest ability, based on what you've engaged with. Pure math, so set theory, logic, number theory, theoretical computer science, computability, fast-growing functions, infinities, evolutionary theory, signaling models, conceptual or philosophical analysis. What you'd likely do for a living. If this cognitive style is representative, you'd be best fit in roles that reward deep analysis, argumentation, critique, precision, and internal consistency. Most plausible fits. Mathematician, especially pure math, logic, theoretical computer scientist, quantitative researcher, less likely unless you tolerate messiness. Philosophy, analytic philosophy, logic-heavy areas. Law, especially litigation or appellate work, where argument structure matters. Less likely fits. Roles that require high diplomacy, rapid consensus building, or tolerance for ambiguity without resolution. You see, this is where I am beginning to disagree with ChatGPT. Ambiguity without resolution. I have a high tolerance for ambiguity without resolution because I'm interested in things like philosophy, for example. So bottom line, you think like someone who treats explanations as things to break and rebuild. Yes, that's true. Values internal consistency over social smoothness. Well, yes, especially if I'm talking to an AI, an LLM. And is most engaged when something is subtle, abstract, and slightly contentious. If you channel that well, it's a strong profile for high-level analytic work. If not, the main risk isn't lack of ability, it's friction with the process and with other people slowing you down. So I decided to ask ChatGPT, would I make a good bag boy? And ChatGPT is diplomatic and says that I could do it. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. But it's not a natural fit to how you seem to operate. Oh, that's true. Yes, I agree with ChatGPT. It's not a natural fit. And so this is an instance where ChatGPT gets the answer right to a much greater degree than somebody like Ted Marcotte, who should really be on the lookout for AI to be replacing him soon. Let's see what else ChatGPT says. A bag or roll is mostly about speed and consistency, following simple procedures, being polite and low friction with customers and coworkers, not over-analyzing, just executing. So your style, based on how you engage, is almost the opposite. You tend to analyze and question things deeply. You're sensitive to inconsistencies or inefficiency. I'll just, it depends on how you use the term inefficiency, but I would argue that speed and efficiency are those go hand in hand. But, regardless of the fact, I more or less agree with everything that has been said so far. You engage in a high-intensity confrontational way when something feels off. Yes, I do. That is true. That combination usually leads to one of two outcomes in a job like that. You get bored very quickly. Well, that's not really true. I can imagine, even though I've never been a bag boy, I've had, when I was a teenager, I did menial jobs, but it wasn't a bag or a grocery store. It was other things. But I did not get bored quickly at those jobs when I had them. And I would not get frustrated with coworkers or customers or dumb processes. I might think that they're stupid. I might be judgmental. towards these things, but I would not get frustrated with them. So that said, it's not like you'd be incapable if you deliberately treated it as a short-term job or a discipline exercise. You could do fine. Okay, well, even though I disagree with some of the framing of this response, yes, this is true. If I treated it as a short-term job or a discipline exercise, I agree that I would do fine. Now, where I disagree would be in this claim that ChatGPT has made. It seems to be implying that I wouldn't treat it like a real job, or I wouldn't take it seriously, or I would get frustrated, or I would, none of that is true. And it proves that, again, ChatGPT has its limitations. ChatGPT doesn't know that I have treated every job that I've had, with my best foot forward, and treated it with the utmost of respect, and treated, my employers with the utmost of respect in every job I've had, regardless of what the fuck it is. So this proves that, yes, ChatGPT doesn't know everything about me, even though I've had conversations with it. In a way, this kind of indicates the prefacing at the beginning of this thing. This is, in fact, a slice of behavior under specific conditions. It's not definitive, right? So, you see this, I click on it, okay. This is one conversation I had, which was, by the way, 100 times more productive than any conversation I've had with a person in the past, couple years, I would say. It's more interesting than any conversation I've had with an actual human. So that's certainly true. But even though I've had all these conversations, ChatGPT doesn't really know me. So there you go.